Developing right now on Morning News Now, an intensified fight in the Middle East. Overnight, Israel striking deeper into Lebanon's capital as the region and the world brace for Israel's retaliation following this week's ballistic missile attack by Iran.
We'll be discussing with the Israelis what they're going to do. They have a right to respond, but they should respond in proportion.
This as Israel announces some of its heaviest losses in months. We have team coverage. Also this morning, a potential legal setback for former President Donald Trump. Special counsel Jack Smith fighting to keep his election interference case alive with a legal filing revealing new details. Meanwhile, President Biden and Vice President Harris getting a first-hand look at the devastation from Hurricane Helene. I'll bring you the latest from one of the hardest-hit areas as relief and recovery efforts persist in the face of giant challenges. And what's the word? The Merriam-Webster dictionary says you now have 200 new words to choose from. We're going to run through this year's editions, including some you've actually probably heard of before. That includes burrata. It's always been on the menu. Now it's in the dictionary. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off this morning. We begin in the Middle East, where Israel is intensifying its assault on Lebanon from the air and the ground. Overnight, Israel carried out a new wave of airstrikes on the Lebanese capital, Beirut, killing at least 9 people. That's according to Lebanese health officials, who say more than 1,300 people have been killed and over 1 million displaced since Israel stepped up its attacks on Hezbollah in Lebanon. In the first few ground clashes of Israel's invasion, the IDF said 8 of its troops were killed in close combat with Hezbollah fighters. All that comes as the region holds its breath for Israel's response to Iran's recent ballistic missile attack. The UN has called for restraint, but UN ambassadors for both countries clashed at yesterday's Security Council meeting.
Israel will defend itself. We will act. And let me assure you, the consequences Iran will face for their actions will be far greater than they could ever have imagined. Iran must pay a heavy price for this attack.
The only way to prevent further escalation is clear. Israel must immediately cease its war on Gaza, and its attacks on Lebanon must stop. Iran's missile strikes were a necessary and proportionate response to Israeli continued terrorist aggressive acts over the past 2 months.
In a few moments, we'll speak with the former National Security Council Director for Syria and Lebanon and host of Oh My World on YouTube, Hagar Shamali. But before that, let's go to NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley, who joins us from Beirut. Matt, good morning. So just what is the situation like on the ground where you are following this latest wave of Israeli airstrikes and now this direct engagement between IDF troops and Hezbollah fighters?
Yeah, Joe, I mean, a lot happening all at once. You know, it was late last night. We were sat right here where normally we've been having a front row seat to the horrifying fireworks happening in Dahia right over here, that Muslim majority area south of Beirut that has been the focal point of so many of these Israeli airstrikes for the last 2 weeks, ever since this expanded offensive by the Israelis against Hezbollah began. But it's just like you said. For the second time this week, we've seen the Israelis striking now into central Beirut. And this time it was very, very close to the main business district of Beirut. A lot of embassies, really Martyrs Square, which is considered kind of the heart of the city. And this time it was a medical facility that was connected to Hezbollah that was apparently the target of this attack. And as you said, 9 people are reported dead. That number could easily go up. Now, what this means is that Israel is expanding the footprint geographically of where it's striking here in Lebanon's capital, but also kind of strategically, ideologically, and politically. This was not ostensibly a military target. And I actually spoke yesterday with a Hezbollah member of parliament, because remember, this isn't just a militant group. They have seats in parliament, they have ministries, they have, lots of different administrative procedures and operations. So they're not just a militant group. This member of parliament said that he wasn't afraid of being targeted because he's a political figure rather than a militant figure. That doesn't look like that's going to protect him anymore, as we're seeing Israel putting more and more Hezbollah people and targets on its menu.
So, Matt, we know Israel has promised to hit back against Iran for that ballistic missile attack, but President Biden says he's against the targeting of Iranian nuclear sites. Does the U.S. have enough influence with Netanyahu right now to get him to avoid those targets?
Well, we hope that they do, because the fact of the matter is that it doesn't look as though the Israelis are going to be stopping anytime soon. Like I said, they're already expanding their list of targets here in Lebanon. Now they're attacking airstrikes, using airstrikes to attack targets in Syria, in Yemen. And this is not new per se, but it looks as though the tempo and the tone of this has really increased over the last 2 to 3 weeks. We understand from various reporting, including NBC News' own reporting, that there is frustration that among American diplomats that they no longer have the traction in Jerusalem that they did before, or with the Ministry of Defense, or with Benjamin Netanyahu himself. But some of the reports, particularly from Axios, came out a couple of days ago saying that the Israelis this time are definitely going to be consulting with the U.S. government before they take this retaliatory step. Now, whether or not they're going to follow through or listen to Joe Biden's admonishment that he would like to not see nuclear targets getting hit because he worries about escalation, that is yet to be seen. Israel, very clearly, is in vengeance mode right now. And they're, as like I said, expanding their targets by air, launching a military ground incursion into Lebanon. It's unclear what they're going to do next, but it's also unclear whether or not they're going to be listening to Washington and other foreign capitals.
Matt Bradley. Matt, thank you so much. Let's keep the conversation going with Hagar Shamali. Hagar, good to have you with us. So we know you have strong roots and ties to Lebanon. What's your reaction to Israel's ground invasion and these airstrikes we're seeing in Beirut? What is it you're hearing?
Yeah, Joe, thank you for mentioning that. Actually, I'm of Lebanese descent. I've spent a considerable amount of time in Lebanon. I handled Hezbollah. Hezbollah was in my portfolio when I handled counterterrorism at the U.S. government, and I was director for Syria and Lebanon, and as you mentioned. And there's a lot here that doesn't look as clear as it is to people on the ground. This is not Gaza 2.0, and Hezbollah is a terrorist and organized criminal group. And any effort they do to have political seats, to provide social services, that is all a cover. All of that is so that they can expand Iran's influence and an extreme Shia ideology in Lebanon, and to point a loaded gun at Israel's head. That is literally their only raison d'etre. And so the targets that we've seen actually, and I want to be very clear, Dahia is not the center of Beirut. It is near the center of Beirut, but it is a Hezbollah stronghold in a southern suburb between the center of Beirut and Beirut's capital. And most Lebanese, every Lebanese I speak to, and to be fair, the Lebanese I'm speaking to are Christian and Sunni, and Lebanon is very segregated by its religions. They are not worried about things headed their way. They are panicked, of course, because it makes everything at a standstill. It's nerve-wracking, of course. They don't want war in their area. But make no mistake, they are gleeful at the deaths of Hezbollah leaders. I can't stress that enough. These are people who this is a group, a terrorist group, and its leaders who have destroyed Lebanon politically, economically, physically, who've invited war into the country. And many Lebanese people, though some of them are public, some of them aren't, want to see this group undermined. And that's how they're viewing this war. Now, on the Israeli side, some people may want to call it vengeance, but you have to be very clear. Over the last few months, it's very clear their intentions with this war have changed, so that they are fundamentally changing the threat that they're facing from all of Iran's proxies, which is why they're going more heavily into Lebanon, the Houthis, going into the West Bank, going after Hamas, and so on. Israel is saying that they don't want to go back to the status quo pre-October 7. And all of that is because of Iran.
So grateful to have your expertise and help us put everything into context right now, Hagar. I mean, we've watched as the U.S. government has been trying to get a ceasefire deal in place with no luck. Now we have the president saying he would not support a retaliatory strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. In your mind, does the U.S. have enough to sway Israel right now to stop what could be an even bigger escalation in this conflict? Have we reached a point where the U.S. really only has this military aid as leverage?
Well, so I worked very closely with the Israeli government in my time, and it's not that different, to be honest with you. The Israeli government briefs the United States very closely. Typically, we coordinate very closely on things. We share intelligence and so on. It's a very, very tight relationship and very consistent. I mean, I'm talking on a daily basis here. But the Israeli government, while they care about what the U.S. says and its guidance and its views, and they certainly care to continue having the U.S. behind its back, that doesn't necessarily mean that if they disagree that Israel will just completely bend to what the U.S. demands. And you've seen that play out surely over the last 11 months. The Biden administration very much does not want this war to escalate further, and they certainly don't want a direct confrontation with Iran to worsen, because that's what would really rope in U.S. involvement more heavily. And so they're going to heed the U.S. calls, and I do think that, because I've seen it before, I do think that it can limit the response from Israel. But at the end of the day, Israel will do that. The Netanyahu administration in particular will do what it wants.
All right. Hagar, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us this morning. Former President Trump is lashing out at special counsel Jack Smith over a sweeping new 165-page court filing. It lays out more detailed evidence against Mr. Trump in the federal election interference case. This filing is in response to the Supreme Court ruling earlier this year that said Mr. Trump had some immunity for actions he took as president and that prosecutors could not use his official acts in their case. For more, let's bring in NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard joining us with the latest. All right, so as I said, 165-page filing here, lots of new details. What are the main takeaways we're seeing out of this?
The big part of this presentation by the special counsel's office is trying to make the case to Judge Chutkan, who is overseeing this federal election interference case, that Donald Trump was working as a private citizen, not president of the United States. And throughout this 160-page document, this filing, they lay out, for instance, that his conversations with Mike Pence were not with him as a vice president, but instead with him as a friend. And Mike Pence, who cooperated with the special counsel's investigation, and throughout this document, there is documented over those 2 months between November and January 6th, in which he was urging Donald Trump to all but concede defeat by saying, as a friend, let's look at this as an intermission, not a loss, suggesting potentially they could run again in 2024. And ultimately, it was Donald Trump right before the January 6th certification in which he told his vice president that he would have to go publicly and say that Mike Pence was doing a disservice to the country if he didn't reject the electors. And so in this document, it is some damning evidence that is being presented by the special counsel that the public is seeing for the first time.
Let's talk about the timing of this, because we know that the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, put out this memo saying let's not do anything that's going to affect the election at all. Mr. Trump's calling this a witch hunt, saying this goes against that directive. Some are saying, hey, is this the first October surprise? What do we know about the timing of this, why it's being released now?
This trial was potentially going to be set with the jury to decide whether Donald Trump was guilty or not until the Supreme Court made that unity decision. So that really slowed down the entirety of this. And where Judge Chutkan has been very assertive in this is saying that she was going to proceed as if there was no election. And, you know, Donald Trump is a criminal defendant, and this trial is going to proceed. Now, of course, this is the last big public filing that we should expect. But Donald Trump and his campaign, they did not want this filing to be released until after the election. There are some comments in there, including at one point, Donald Trump, according to an aide to his, is saying, quote, it doesn't matter if you won or lost the election. You still have to fight like hell. There was another iteration from a witness who described on January 6th his VP, Mike Pence, going to a remote secure location after the attackers attacked the Capitol. Donald Trump's words allegedly were, quote, so what? This is sort of that evidence that the Harris campaign has consistently pointed to and saying that Donald Trump cannot be trusted to take back the White House here. And yet, this is where, if Donald Trump does win and takes the White House again in 2025, we could very well potentially see him order his Department of Justice to drop this case in its entirety in the indictment. So really, this is going to come down to November of whether he wins or loses and whether this case is even ever heard.
Yeah, the case will definitely go away if he's elected. We know that. So we know we're not going to have a trial before November. Real quickly here, what can we expect next in this?
This is where, over the next month, we should not expect anything public to really come out. This is going to be both sides that are going to be putting forward their motions. Ultimately, there will be a hearing by Judge Chutkan to determine whether the extent to which Donald Trump is immune from some of the charges that he faced from the superseding indictment. And already there were some of the initial charges that the Department of Justice and the special counsel brought against Donald Trump that had already been dropped because of the Supreme Court's decision. But Judge Chutkan is going to determine whether this case can go on in its entirety at this point in time, or whether some of the charges will not be able to stand. So it's going to be really over the next month. The public should not expect to hear much, but come November, December, after the election, we should see this really ramp up before, of course, Inauguration Day, which is really going to be the question of whether this case proceeds at all.
All right, Von Hilliard, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Mr. Trump's going to be back on the campaign trail today. He's heading to the battleground state of Michigan, while Vice President Harris will be next door visiting Wisconsin for a 5th time. It is the battle for the prized Midwest. NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us now with more on the campaign. Monica, good morning. So let's start with Mr. Trump. What's his pitch to voters in Michigan, where the polls are just neck and neck right now?
Yeah, it's an absolutely key battleground state for both of these candidates, and that's why you saw Senator J.D. Vance, fresh off the vice presidential debate, go to Michigan yesterday, and that's why you're also going to see Vice President Harris head to Flint, Michigan tomorrow. But as for today, he is going to be having a campaign rally there, and this is really a place where we expect these candidates to be crisscrossing and returning to over and over again. But a really interesting event that the vice president is going to be having today in Wisconsin, as you mentioned. She's going essentially to the birthplace, what is considered the birthplace of the Republican Party, and she's going to be stumping along with former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who of course endorsed her a couple of weeks ago, along with her father, former Vice President Dick Cheney, as part of their push of some of the Republicans who have backed the Harris-Walz ticket. Joe.
So, Monica, yesterday we saw President Biden and Vice President Harris touring areas devastated by Helene. We're going to talk more about Helene in a moment. But what can you tell us about that trip, and just also what's on the VP's agenda today when she does visit Wisconsin?
Yeah. This is something that, of course, comes at a time where the president and the vice president in their official capacities are responsible for being the face of the federal response to the devastation out of Hurricane Helene. So even though it's a very intense election year and season, the vice president, who, of course, is the Democratic nominee now, put aside some of her campaign events this week in order to be focused on this. And so she traveled to Georgia yesterday. President Biden was in North Carolina. They both were able to get some briefings from FEMA. President Biden was able to do an aerial tour as well. And they continue to pledge that all of the personnel and resources that the people in these states need so desperately will be available to them, as there are still mounting questions about how some of the response and the preparations went. But this is something really that you are seeing develop as a potential issue for the administration, clearly at a time where they're so close to the election that it's dominating a lot of the conversation. But the vice president said that she's committed to that. And again, today she's saying, I'm going to Wisconsin. I'm going to have this campaign event with Liz Cheney, but that the ongoing briefings about what's happening with Hurricane Helene and the response will continue. But that's why she set aside yesterday to be sure to do that. And then we're told that she might be going to some of the other storm-ravaged regions in the days ahead as well, Joe.
So, Monica, when we talk about the vice president, we have to keep in mind she jumped into the race with both feet less than 3 months ago. That reinvigorated her party in the process, but that also meant President Biden had to step aside. I know you've done some reporting about how he's handling that. What is it you've learned?
Yeah, and behind the scenes, these are conversations where we have learned that President Biden privately telling allies that he struggles and is grappling with the fact that he has all but left the national conversation when it comes to the politics of this race. That's something that was kind of evident in the VP debate the other night, where he wasn't mentioned very many times. And of course, he fully supports, fully backs and endorses his vice president, Kamala Harris, and certainly wants her to win in November, because that's tied to his legacy, and that's something that he talks about. But it is something where this is really a transition moment for him. And in his final months, we're seeing the VP try to chart her own course and also put sometimes a little bit of distance between herself, her policies, and what she is pitching she would do as president, and really, try to separate that a little bit from what Joe Biden has done during his time in office. And we're told that's something that she feels is important that she has to do as well. You saw that in her own debate against Donald Trump, where she said, clearly, I am not Joe Biden. And we're told by several people that that was a comment that irked the president a little bit and got under his skin, because, of course, again, this is a moment that's marking the fact that he is leaving political life while she is really trying to make the case to stand alone on her own, while also touting the record of the Biden-Harris administration. Joe.
So, Monica, at this point, we likely have no more debates or any more big events like that. So help us understand what's just going to shape what happens in these last few weeks. Is it really just going to come down to visiting these battleground states, a lot of local news coverage, just basically the ground game?
I think so. I think you're going to be seeing basically Vice President Harris and Governor Walz just going to these battlegrounds over and over again. And it was interesting with Governor Walz in particular. He hadn't done much media. He hadn't really been doing a ton of interviews or taking questions from the press. And then yesterday after the debate, he did finally do that. And we are told he's going to have a bit more of an aggressive posture. He's going to do some late night shows. He's going to be doing more interviews. And I think the vice president is under pressure for that as well, because they had taken, when they took over the ticket, this approach of we can't really be doing all of that because we just are getting this campaign under our feet. We have so much to do. We have so much travel. Now they're saying in this final sprint, they're going to be doing that. And that's also why you're going to see the vice president on 60 Minutes coming up on CBS in a couple of days, which will be key too. Joe.
Right. Monica, thank you so much. Let's talk more about the hurricane. In the wake of Helene, the death toll continues to rise across the southeast, with millions of people needing help. This morning, nearly 200 people are known to have died as a result of the storm that made landfall in Florida just about a week ago. More than half of those deaths were in North Carolina, where President Biden made several stops yesterday to survey the damage himself for the first time, as we just mentioned. It's just the beginning of a slow recovery process, with hundreds still missing and millions still without power. The president making a promise while on the ground in North Carolina.
In a moment like this, we put politics aside. At least we should put it all aside, and we have here. There are no Democrats or Republicans, only Americans. The nation has your back. The nation has your back. We're not leaving till you're back on your feet.
NBC News correspondent Sam Brock joins us now with the very latest. Sam, let's talk more about President Biden's visit. Monica touched on it a moment ago, but what else did we hear from him while he was on the ground in North Carolina?
Sure. So it's important background to note the president came, Joe, and offered a very sobering assessment of what is going to be a multi-month, if not multi-year process of recovery, and the fact that there's going to be billions, probably tens of billions in economic damage for these communities. He said that the federal government is going to stick this out. We know there's already 3,500 federal personnel on the ground, 1,200 urban search and rescue teams. But they've also been responding to the idea that FEMA was not acting fast enough. We got some information from FEMA, Joe, about the fact that they had to pre-position in a general location where they could reach several different states should the needs arise. They were in Raleigh originally. It's why it took 48 plus hours for them to get water and food disseminated on the ground in places like Swannanoa, where I am right now. We only had access here, Joe, in the last day and a half or so because the roads finally opened up. I want to point your attention to what's behind me. This is the main road in and out of Swannanoa. This is a giant gaping hole that basically takes up about a half a block. This thing goes probably 10 to 12 feet deep. The road just buckled from within. And behind me, you're seeing all these crews right now trying to restore power lines. I know you mentioned the fact that it's widespread. There's roughly 1 million customers at this hour with no power in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. The scale is unbelievable. Residents here are being told that they may have power. Most people will by Friday, at least in this part of Western North Carolina. That's if they can get the infrastructure actually rebuilt again, though. That's not everybody, Joe. So running water, another major crisis on the ground. Officials would not even venture to give a projection as to how long it would take to get residents here running water back again. It could be weeks, it could be months. Some people worried it could be as long as 6 months. So the Biden administration needs to certainly work through all of these different multi-layered crises that are happening simultaneously. The president trying to give his voice to the fact that they will do that, and please be patient.
Sam, in addition to just the incredible images you're seeing there, I know you are hearing harrowing stories from people. Talk about some of the things you are hearing.
This is pretty incredible. So we met so many folks yesterday in a small little neighborhood, working class neighborhood, about a half a mile from where I'm standing. They were talking about punctured holes in the roof where people had to break through their attic and get onto the roof itself to be rescued either by kayak or by chopper. And we saw the proof of that, not just in terms of the holes, but also flotation devices that some folks had used from getting from one house to another to put themselves in a position to be rescued. That was harrowing. Talked to another gentleman, his name is Charles Muse, who was going through his house. Everything is caked in mud. We're talking about feet of mud. He was just trying to salvage things that were either very important in terms of having a social security card or a birth certificate, or family items that meant a lot to him personally. Here's a portion of our conversation yesterday and why these mementos are so important. Take a listen.
We have no running water. We're living off of water bottles and generators, and it looks like the city of Asheville is saying the water is going to be maybe weeks, maybe months before they have the situation back up and running. Everybody's helping now, but the real battle starts in about 6 weeks when the paperwork's done and we start to rebuild. That's when we're going to need the most help here.
It's such a good point, Joe. We're in a part of the country where there's a lot of second properties for folks. You know, in the Blue Ridge Mountains, there's not a lot of available inventory in the Asheville area. Now you're talking about all these working class people that have been totally displaced without the housing inventory to support it. Where are they going to live in the short to medium term as they're rebuilding their homes? Just one of the many issues right now facing local officials. Joe?
Such an important point, because so many are going to have to now make a long commute to get in and out of the area day after day after day. I mean, Sam, we're just about a week into this disaster. As that man Charles mentioned, this is going to be months, years of recovery. But just right now, beyond the housing, what are the greatest needs?
Let me run you through a few of the others. Cellular connectivity. So right now, we don't even know, Joe, whether is it dozens, is it hundreds of people that are still unaccounted for? We've heard figures like 11,000 welfare checks down to 150, down to a handful. The latest we got from Buncombe County was they had it down to 4 from 400. But no one seems to have that much of an idea, largely because people are telling us we can't reach our relatives. We go to try to call them or use government channels and no one can get online. I would say that's probably at the top of the list. Water we talked about, electricity, really just being able to get supplies through all of these things in their totality have created a nightmare logistically.
All right. Sam Brock, Sam, appreciate your reporting. Thank you so much. For more on Helene's damage, I'm joined now by Quentin Miller. He is the sheriff in Buncombe County, North Carolina, which includes Asheville. Sheriff, thank you for your time. I know you have a lot on your plate right now. Just lay it out for us. Sam painted quite a picture there, but where do things stand in your county right now from your perspective?
Well, first, I'd just like to say good morning. I will lay it out in just simple terms. We're devastated. You've heard the report earlier. You can see the photos. Those are my people, and it's heartfelt. And to add to that, I have deputies here who are responding to our community who have families of their own, and they placed them on standby to come and serve our community. So the devastating event is ongoing. We are in we think about the cellular or water. I'm asking for prayers.
And no doubt so many people are praying for your community right now, Sheriff. One state official yesterday said this will likely go down as the worst disaster in North Carolina history. So few people, for starters, have flood insurance in that area, and they may have lost everything. What is it you're just telling people who don't even really know where to start right now?
Well, first thing I'm telling them is that we're here for them. I'm telling them that we have to work through this as a community. We like to talk about one Buncombe, or the community of we. So I'm telling them that we're going to be with them throughout this whole ordeal. I'm telling them that their sheriff's office will stand with them. We'll be, because we're a part of them, and that we're in this together until we get recovered, and we will recover. We will do this, and we will do this together.
FEMA has said more than $10 million has been provided to affected areas so far. More will eventually come, but obviously that is just a drop in the bucket compared with what it's actually going to cost. Are you getting what you need from the state level, from the federal level right now?
Well, I don't want to do the blame game now. At this point, my priorities is getting my community safe and keeping them safe. I would say thank you to our North Carolina Sheriff Association, who's been providing us the necessary items and folks that we need. And also I would be thankful to other law enforcement agencies who have come across state lines, if you will, to assist us. So again, I don't want to do the blame game here. My priority is saving my people.
When it comes to water, when it comes to power, do you have an idea of how long it's going to be before those things are restored to your county?
I don't, but we just have confidence that we continue to work together. We have the belief that we believe in one Buncombe, that we believe that we're going to come through this. And again, with the thoughts and prayers of our community, thoughts and prayers nationally, that we will, again, come through.
All right. Sheriff Quentin Miller, we appreciate your time. This is one of the most stunning parts of the country, a place so many people enjoy visiting. We are all thinking of you, and we'll do whatever we can to help out.
Remember to pray for us.
All right. Thank you, Sheriff. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, let's bring in NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman. She's tracking more heat alerts across the West this morning. Angie, good morning.
Hi there, Joe. Good morning to you. Boy, it is warm across the country, but we've specifically got heat alerts up for parts of the Southwest. Noticed more than 29 million people included in this. San Fran stretching down to L.A., out towards Phoenix. And these temperatures are going to be once again quite impressive. Not feeling like fall across much of the country, but specifically in places like Phoenix, we are headed to the triple digits again today. 107 is what we're expecting for that high temperature. We've got 90s for Albuquerque and Lubbock, even Kansas City running more than 10, 15 degrees above normal in that location here as we get to the 90s later today. Across the Midwest, too, temperatures warmer than normal. This continues into tomorrow, too. Notice not much change, not much cool air settling in. Still the triple digits for the Southwest. Still the high 90s to mid 70s across much of the plains and stretching into the Great Lakes. We even will enter early next week with temperatures a little warmer than normal, but there is a bit of a break in sight. Notice Kansas City, we go from the upper 80s to those mid 70s by the time we head into our next work week. We've got Atlanta still holding on steady to those 80s. Washington, D.C. ends up into the mid to upper 70s for Saturday and Sunday. Big picture look otherwise, it honestly is very quiet. Looks kind of nice. We've got a couple of thunderstorms across the Sunshine State, but otherwise all is quiet this morning. Now, one area we're going to watch, it's in the Gulf of Mexico, a broad area of low pressure that potentially could develop here as we get into the weekend, although right now it looks like it's about a 30% chance. So not looking great for actual development, but that doesn't really change the impacts that we could see. Likely it's going to be the showers, the thunderstorms across parts of the Gulf Coast. Specifically today, it'll be Louisiana. We'll see the state of Florida see some of that action as well with the showers and thunderstorms across, mainly focusing across the west coast of Florida. By the time this is all said and done, I think through Sunday, maybe an inch, 2 inches, up to 3 inches in some spots. Of course, a lot of folks are still recovering from Helene and some of these locations in Florida, so we'll be watching for that additional rain across that region, but mostly quiet across the country otherwise, Joe.
We will take the quiet. All right, Angie, thank you so much. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, changes coming to cafeterias at California schools. We're going to tell you about the first of its kind ban on artificial food dyes. Up first after the break, the fate of 3 officers charged with the death of Tyree Nichols now in the hands of a jury. We're going to break down the closing arguments as deliberations get underway. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Jury deliberations are set to begin today in Tennessee in a high-profile federal civil rights trial. 3 former Memphis officers are charged in the beating death of Tyree Nichols after a traffic stop. The defense and prosecution delivered their closing arguments Wednesday. Prosecutors argue the officers did not call medics to the scene because they wanted to get away with what they did. The officers have pleaded not guilty to all charges, which include using excessive force, failure to intervene, and witness tampering. None of the officers testified in their own defense. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos joins us now with more on this. Danny, good morning. So throughout the trial, we kept seeing this video of the officers beating Nichols played over and over again. It is tough to watch. At one point, we hear him crying out for his mother. Is this a good strategy by prosecutors to keep playing this? Is there a point where maybe it becomes too much?
Too much for whom is the big question. It might be too much for the defense, but it might also be too much for the jury. Reportedly, some of the jurors even had difficulty listening to or watching over and over again. So if you're the prosecution, it's a pretty conservative strategy. Take your best piece of evidence, play it as many times as you can, as many times as the judge will let you, to drive home that this was, that your case is made and you've proven your case beyond a reasonable doubt. The challenge, however, is at what point does it become too much? It's a risky proposition.
The defense also played it quite a few times, trying to argue their point that it doesn't give the whole picture. One of the lawyers for the defendant said when Nichols was tackled, even though police didn't know if he was armed or not, that the force involved wasn't excessive. Jurors can see this for themselves. Was that a strong argument, do you think?
So I'm so glad you bring this up, because it illustrates how the exact same piece of evidence both sides may see differently. I mean, look, the government apparently believes that if we play this over and over again, it will help us prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt. But then you have the defense taking the exact same approach. Their reasoning is likely that if we play this over and over again, the jury will become desensitized. And if we break it up into little fractions, they won't think about this as one continuous beating that resulted in the victim's death. So it's really a great illustration of how sometimes different sides can see the exact same piece of evidence used in exactly the same way as totally differently, which means that ultimately we're all trying to read the jury and we're all engaging in a form of astrology.
During the opening statements, attorneys for one of the officers, Justin Smith, said he was going to testify on his own behalf. He ended up not doing that. Do you think that was the right choice in this situation? And how might the jury respond to that if they were told we were going to hear from him and then in the end they don't?
Yeah, this is very risky, and it's a cautionary tale for the defense that maybe in your opening you should stand up, say hello to the jury, say keep an open mind, listen to the evidence, and sit down. Because if you start promising things in your opening and you don't deliver, the government, the prosecution, they're going to hammer you. Because even if the jury isn't paying close attention at the beginning, the government is, and they'll notice if you make a promise, especially a gigantic promise like my client will testify, and then the client does not testify, that can be a huge problem. Now, of course, the government can't refer to a defendant's right to remain silent. However, generally speaking, don't make promises in the opening that you don't plan to keep.
So for the jury now, as deliberations begin, what do you think this is going to boil down to?
It's going to boil down to the video. The video, and I should add that the government does have cooperating witnesses, former police officers who testified against their brother officers. That is always compelling evidence. Sometimes maybe even stronger than the video itself is someone's own brother officer saying, I think these guys did wrong.
We'll see what the jury decides. Danny Savalos, thank you so much. Coming up, changing the menu. California schools banned from serving foods with artificial dyes. When we come back, more on that new state law that could pave the way for nationwide change. This is Morning News Now. Welcome back. It's October, which means it's officially spooky season, even though Halloween decorations have been on store shelves for months. By month's end, lots of brightly colored candy will be making its way into the hands of trick-or-treaters. For decades, there's been a debate over the relative safety of artificial dyes, which make those candies and other foods look that way. Some research has linked the food dyes to health and behavior problems among children. Because of this, California has passed the School Food Safety Act, prohibiting school cafeterias from serving food that contains 6 artificial dyes. Here with more, NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. Good to have you with us on this one, because this is something parents maybe don't think much about, but it's been a debate for a while. So walk us through how we got to this point. What are the arguments, this long-running debate about food dyes?
Yeah, and so I think it is important to say from the outset that as of right now, the FDA has not formally come down and said that these food dyes are definitively linked to neurobehavioral issues like hyperactivity in children who otherwise wouldn't be sensitive to them, like kids who already have, for example, ADHD. But essentially, yes, the California EPA released a report sort of linking synthetic dyes to hyperactivity in children, not only children who already had ADHD, but maybe even in children who otherwise wouldn't have displayed that kind of behavior. And even a year ago, this California Food Safety Act actually prohibited use of something that we've all heard a lot about, something called red dye 3, brominated vegetable oil. These are things that other countries have banned, Joe, for years. You mentioned in our intro that the candy, some of the candy that would be involved in this ban, which includes Red 40, are things like Skittles, Twizzlers, Jolly Ranchers, M&Ms, a lot of the stuff that's kind of ubiquitous in households as well as in schools.
Especially right now with Halloween around the corner. So as you noted, that there has not been this established link between the products and behavioral problems, but California did publish a report.
Yes.
What did that find?
Well, and so here's the thing. So the report found an association, again, not cause and effect, between the use of these dyes and hyperactivity in children. And what they basically have said is that previous research is decades old that established any kind of sort of safety. And what they are arguing is that children, because they are younger, would have less tolerance to exposure in their developmental years than adults would. And they basically said, you know, we expected to find maybe an association with kids who already have a diagnosis of ADHD, but they found this association, Joe, in children who otherwise wouldn't have had a diagnosis of ADHD, that it could cause restlessness and things like this. And then the bigger question, of course, is that are they carcinogens? No causal relationship there between these dyes and cancer, but that's another area of concern for these experts.
So now we have this Food Safety Act in California. What does it do? What could the impact be?
So it's not that they're suggesting that we no longer can have Skittles and Twizzlers, but that the manufacturers need to substitute out dyes with things like beet, other things that are natural colorings, which I think we would all be in favor of, right? I mean, if your child is going to eat something that's cherry red, you would like that coloring to have come from a food product, not from something synthetic. And manufacturers have until the end of December 2027 to implement these changes. So I think they've given them quite a bit of a grace period to institute these changes.
Real quickly, if you're just a parent and you're worried about whether your kids are having this stuff, if you're shopping, can you easily see on the label what you're looking for?
You can easily see it on the label, and it's red, yellow, blue, and green dyes. And I think it's something that parents and all of us consumers alike can look and say, if you have trouble pronouncing it, it's probably not healthy for you. You know, we kind of just always say anything that's packaged, you have to rip open and whatnot, is probably not all that good for you. And unfortunately, candy is in that category. Everything in moderation, especially around Halloween. No one's saying that your kids shouldn't be enjoying candy, but I think on a regular, day-to-day basis, these are kinds of things that everyone needs to be mindful of.
Moderation, always good. Yep. Dr. Natalie Azar, thanks for breaking it down. We appreciate it. Coming up, hope for home ownership. Both Vice President Harris and former President Trump are promising help for prospective home buyers. More on their proposals and what it could mean for the market. That's next on Morning News Now. Welcome back. Let's get to some money news. Amazon getting into the holiday spirit with some new seasonal jobs. CNBC's Silvana Henao has that and other dollar sign headlines. Silvana, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Well, Amazon is already gearing up for the festive season. The online marketplace announced this morning it will hire 250,000 seasonal workers this season. And that's the same number as last year. Now, all seasonal employees will earn at least $18 an hour and have access to health benefits from the first day on the job. The company, which is one of the largest private employers in the U.S., says these seasonal roles can turn into a long-term career with the company. Denim maker Levi Strauss is planning to sell its Dockers khaki brand. The company's CEO announced the potential exit yesterday after Levi's cut its revenue outlook for the year, dragged down by a 15% decline in sales from Dockers. Now, Levi's is seeing strong gains in the namesake brand as it focuses on direct selling and benefits from lower cotton costs. Now, the company says it has tapped Bank of America to lead the sales process. And all that glitters is not just gold at Costco anymore. The wholesaler is adding Swiss-made platinum bars to its precious metal lineup. They went on sale yesterday for nearly $1,100. Now, the bars are only sold online, and they can't be delivered to Louisiana, Nevada, or Puerto Rico. And interested buyers will need to be a Costco member. Costco launched sales of gold bars in August 2023, and these started to sell out within a matter of months after being restocked, and they just sold out within minutes. Now, Wells Fargo analysts said last spring that Costco was selling as much as $200 million of gold bars a month.
Wow. Just don't lose them.
Please.
All right. Silvana, thank you so much. Home buying remains a top issue for so many Americans, and both Vice President Harris and former President Trump are promising to deliver plans that will make home ownership easier. But will their proposals make a difference? Well, NBC News senior policy reporter Shannon Pettypiece takes a closer look at the cost of living.
Kashmir Martin dreams of owning a home in Reno, Nevada, where she's lived her entire life. What type of families lived here when you were growing up?
It's a pretty middle-class neighborhood, working folks.
But now Martin, an accountant, and her husband, an audio engineer, can't afford to buy a house here, even with a combined income of more than $200,000 a year.
It's a little depressing. I thought that I worked hard and made all the right decisions so that I could at least do as well as my family did.
After looking at 100 homes, she's nearly given up her search and put plans to start a family on hold. In the Reno area, single-family housing prices have soared. The median price up nearly 50% in 5 years to more than $600,000. And with mortgage rates still above 6%, the monthly cost puts buying a home out of reach for many. Rising housing costs have become a top issue for residents here, and one that could have wider implications in the upcoming presidential election, with this region seen as a decisive area in a key swing state.
We will open up new tracts of federal land for large-scale housing construction.
On the campaign trail, both former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are increasingly talking about housing.
As the price of housing has gone up, the size of down payments have gone up as well.
Harris has proposed $25,000 in down payment assistance to first-time homebuyers, along with tax breaks and other incentives to spur the construction of more affordable homes. While Trump has said he would lower housing costs by opening federal land to development, rolling back regulations, and reducing overall inflation. University of Nevada professor Jeremy Gelman says neither candidate's plan is likely to solve the wider issue of housing affordability.
These issues are things that happen in your city council meetings, in your state legislatures, but people are looking for leadership, and candidates feel like they need to provide that. But at the end of the day, housing prices in Reno aren't going to depend on whether Trump or Harris becomes president.
Kashmir Martin also doesn't believe that her search for a house will be helped by whoever ends up in the White House.
I feel like candidates are talking about it, but maybe not in a meaningful way.
As she and other frustrated homebuyers continue waiting for change. Shannon Pettypiece, NBC News, Reno, Nevada.
Coming up, a little wordplay. An iconic dictionary is making some fun additions to its lexicon. We're going to go through some of the new words getting the most attention. This is Morning News Now. Before you get out and touch grass today, you'll want to stick around for our next story. Merriam-Webster is out with its list of new words that are making their dictionary debut. From the far left to the far right, we're breaking down all the words that were just right in 2024. Let's bring in editor-at-large for Merriam-Webster, Peter Sokolowski. Peter, good to have you with us. This is a fun one. So the first question we have to ask is just, how does a word even end up making it into the dictionary? Is there like a committee or what?
There's no committee just because that would waste time. There's so much vocabulary that is being added to the culture. And when those words are used by many people in many publications, they go into the dictionary. We don't have arguments. We don't have enough time for that.
All right, so let's get to some of the new additions this year. It's about 200 new words that were added. Some of them have been around for a while. Some of them I've never heard before. Talk about some of the ones that made the cut this year.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that because that's really the key. Some of these words you will have encountered and some are brand new to you and brand new to the language. What I noticed about this particular list is the specificity and the number of what we call compound terms, words that are made up of two or more words. So we have, as you said, touch grass, beach read, jam band, street corn, and true crime. All of these things might ring true, and you realize that maybe you would have understood what a beach read was before, but now it's made concrete as a single idea.
I love this. Street corn. We have a definition here. Grilled corn on the cob, coated with a creamy spread, such as mayonnaise, sour cream, or crema, and garnished with toppings, such as lime juice, cojita cheese, and chili powder. Someone must have fun writing these descriptions, right?
It's very important to write a good definition that doesn't waste words, that doesn't waste time, that is also clear and also incorporates all the possibilities of variation that the thing that you're describing might have. Other new food words include words from South Asia like bhaji, kind of fried vegetables, and maki, sushi roll.
And shower orange? What is that?
Well, I mean, there are always terms that make you smile and make you, kind of wonder, what, sort of where they came from or what they're doing. We have to look to the fact that the world is getting smaller, communication is getting faster, and there are more and more cuisines coming to America. 100 years ago, the new words were like lasagna and beef bourguignon.
That is a great perspective. I like that a lot. Do you have any personal favorites of the words that made the cut this year?
Well, the new beer term is saison, the kind of light and dry, crisp ale. And we also have International Bitterness Unit, which is the way that you measure the bitterness of hops in making beer. So we have a lot of new specific terms for beer lovers as well.
For you, I mean, is this something you are constantly sort of thinking of, like you see a word or you see like the compound expression, as you mentioned, and you're thinking, oh, maybe we need to consider whether that's in the dictionary?
Absolutely. We're basically always in a continuous manner updating the dictionary. Revision is the job. A lot of that is quiet work, adding new senses to existing words. We added freestyle, for example, as a verb in this round. It was already there as a noun. So we make sure that we get those details right. But it's true that, digital communication has also changed the way we work. Among other things, we have more space so that we add these specific compounds. It used to be in a print dictionary. For example, orange juice was never an entry in a Merriam-Webster dictionary because it was considered to be self-evident. But now we're adding those words that occur next to each other with great frequency.
And you still do publish, though, an actual dictionary frequently?
Absolutely. We're very proud to say we sold 1 million books last year. We're still a publisher. Absolutely.
All right. Peter Sokolowski, that was fascinating. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. But stick with us. The news continues right now. Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off right now on Morning News Now. Bracing for retaliation. Israel ramping up its offensive in Lebanon, striking its capital of Beirut overnight, leaving at least 9 people dead. It comes as the region waits for Israel's response to Iran's ballistic missile attack. Our Richard Engel is on the ground in Lebanon with the latest as fears of all-out war grip the Middle East. In the race for the White House, a bombshell court filing from the special counsel at the center of that election interference case against former President Trump. Why prosecutors argue Mr. Trump should not be immune from legal consequences for his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election, and how the former president is now responding. Also this morning, the long road to recovery in the aftermath of Helene. More than 1 million people across the hard-hit South are still in the dark. Now stunning new satellite images show the extent of Mother Nature's wrath. We are in North Carolina with the stories of heartache and survival as the storm's death toll nears 200. Plus, can all those hard-earned credit card points actually dip in value? Later in the hour, we're digging into how inflation might be impacting your rewards and where you can find the best bang for your buck. Good to have you with us. Let's begin this hour in Lebanon, which is reeling from a new wave of Israeli airstrikes on the capital of Beirut. Lebanese health officials say at least 9 people were killed overnight. As for Israel, in the first few ground battles of this invasion, the IDF says 8 of its troops were killed in combat with Hezbollah fighters. All this comes as Israel is promising a swift response to Wednesday's Iranian missile attack. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel has the latest from southern Lebanon.
There has been another Israeli airstrike, this one right in the heart of Beirut. But remarkably, the international airport in Beirut is still functioning. It's still open. There are limited flights coming in and out. Tickets are extremely hard to get. The U.S. Embassy has been encouraging American citizens to leave while they still can and is also providing assistance, chartering flights. And another charter leaves today carrying more than 100 U.S. citizens as this entire region now is bracing for further escalation.
Israel says Iran's barrage of ballistic missiles, nearly all shot down by Israeli and American air defenses, will not go unanswered. As U.S. and Israeli officials tell NBC News, Israel is preparing a swift response. At the United Nations, Israel's ambassador outlined what may be coming.
The consequences Iran will face for their actions will be far greater than they could ever have imagined.
President Biden said he would not support an attack on Iran's nuclear sites.
They have a right to respond, but they should respond in proportion.
Overnight, Vice President Harris expressing her support for Israel, saying that there will absolutely not be a need for American troops to go into combat.
It is in American interest to make sure that we take seriously the threat Iran that it poses.
The administration is pushing to prevent a regional war, but Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he is already in one. We are in the middle of a tough war against Iran's axis of evil, which seeks to destroy us, he said. In Tel Aviv overnight, a new attack. This time, drones from the Houthis, a Yemeni militia supported by Iran. It caused no deaths and little damage, and appears to be retaliation after Israel sent fighter jets more than 1,000 miles to attack the Houthi-run port city of Hodeidah in Yemen earlier this week, in what a former Israeli prime minister described as a possible trial run for a strike on Iran. And in Beirut overnight, Israel carried out more airstrikes, killing at least 9, according to health officials. Israel also has troops fighting in Lebanon against Hezbollah.
Israel's war here in Lebanon is escalating. After initially holding back, apparently to assess Israel's strength, Hezbollah is now engaging Israeli troops directly in close combat as towns and cities are emptying out.
Israel announced the loss of 8 soldiers in Lebanon. Hezbollah promises there will be more.
And the Israeli military this morning ordered more Lebanese civilians to evacuate from here in southern Lebanon.
All right, Richard, thank you so much. Let's get more on this now with former NBC News correspondent and Tel Aviv bureau chief Martin Fletcher. Martin, always good to have you with us. So let's recap here. Lebanese officials say more than 1,300 people have been killed since Israel stepped up its airstrikes on Lebanon. More than 1 million have been displaced. Just this morning, the Israeli military ordered the evacuations of another 25 Lebanese villages. You covered this region for decades. Is this as bad as you've seen it before? Put some historical context on this.
Absolutely, Joe. I think it hasn't been as bad as this for maybe since the 1973 war when Egypt and Syria invaded Israel, surprising them. This is the situation that everybody feared. Israel is now faced with a multi-front war. They're fighting in Lebanon. They're fighting against the Houthis in Yemen. They're fighting in Gaza, and now they're beginning to fight in Iran. So this is what everyone feared. The question of will there be a wider war, as the Israeli Prime Minister said, there is a wider war. The question is how severe will it be? Now, Iran has been very successful over the years in avoiding any direct fighting with Israel on its own soil. It's always used its proxies in Lebanon and Gaza to do its, if you like, its dirty work against Israel. Now they're directly involved in a war with Israel. They've launched 2 massive missile attacks against Israel. The last one, 181 ballistic missiles hitting Israel, damaging some airfields, but causing remarkably little damage because of Israel's defenses, along with the United States helping Israel. The question now, what will Israel do? And will America be able to limit Israel's response to what President Biden calls a proportional response? The one thing is very clear is that Prime Minister Netanyahu, Israel, they're on the war path now against Iran. They want to make Iran pay heavily for those missile attacks against Israel.
So, Martin, what is Israel's end game here in Lebanon? Ultimately, will this make Israel safer?
That's the question, isn't it? You've got about 70,000 Israelis who can't live at home in the north because they don't feel safe. Will this make Israel safer? It isn't clear. First, they have to win the war. The latest news is that Israel's told 25 Lebanese villagers to clear the area while they operate in South Lebanon. In the past, they've spent many years occupying South Lebanon, and Hezbollah has always managed to come back and continue to threaten Israel. So it's quite possible that Israel will succeed in this round of pushing Hezbollah back away from its border, maybe as far as the Litani River, maybe to the next river beyond that. They'll probably succeed in clearing out this area of southern Lebanon. But in the future, will Hezbollah come back? Will this be a long-term solution? There's rarely been a military solution to a political problem. And ultimately, there has to be some kind of political solution. But Israel is saying very clearly for the time being, we're under attack. and we have to stop those attacks. We have to make our people safe in their homes, and they're doing whatever they can to achieve that. And in terms of the long term, will there be peace will there be long-term security for Israel's population in the north? And by the way, don't forget the Lebanese population in the south. They've also been forced from their homes, hundreds of thousands of people. So this is a problem on both sides of the border that cannot in the long term be solved by military means. But for the time being, it's a war.
Let's talk about diplomacy efforts, the U.S. response. President Biden's been pushing for a ceasefire in Lebanon, but if anything, we seem to be moving further and further away from that. Is there more the U.S. can do here?
Well, from the Israeli point of view, they want two things from America. They want resupply of weapons, and they want support diplomatically, I guess. And a third thing, of course, is they want American help in terms of protecting Israel from Iranian and Lebanese missiles. So can America do more? They could turn the tap on that. They could close the tap. They could say, we're not going to resupply you until you do what we say. I think it's unlikely that's going to happen at this time, because the war has moved on. The war was in Gaza. Now we're not hearing about Gaza. The war has moved to Lebanon, but the bigger war, the ultimate war, seems to be taking shape against Iran. Now, a war against Iran, to some extent, serves American interests too. Nobody wants Iran to develop a nuclear weapon. Will America help Israel attack those nuclear sites? Very, very unlikely. They're calling for a proportionate Israeli response. And what that proportion probably means is attacks against Iranian military infrastructure, airfields, systems against to protect Iran from Israeli bombs and planes. Proportional military targets America will go along with. But they won't. They've said they won't go along with any attack against Iranian nuclear facilities, which, however, in the long run is what everybody wants, right? Everybody wants to stop Iran getting a nuclear bomb. But apparently America is not behind the idea of trying to achieve that goal militarily.
All right. Martin Fletcher, always good to have you with us. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks, John.
Now to the race for the White House. Former President Trump is lashing out at special counsel Jack Smith over a sweeping new court filing. It lays out evidence against the former president in his 2020 election interference case. NBC's Garrett Hake has the latest from Washington.
Hey, Joe, good morning. This filing draws heavily on testimony from former Trump aides and from Mike Pence's own handwritten notes. At its core, the special counsel's argument that Donald Trump, the candidate, not the president, committed crimes to try to hold on to an office he knew he had lost.
In a sweeping new court filing, the special counsel is shedding new light on his 2020 election interference case against Donald Trump, arguing the former president is not immune from prosecution because when he sought to overturn his 2020 loss, he was fundamentally acting as a private candidate and resorted to crimes to try to stay in office. The filing, including Trump's conversations with his former Vice President Mike Pence, including one where Pence tried to convince Trump to accept defeat and run in the next election. Smith arguing they were acting in a private capacity as running mates. On January 6th, as rioters stormed the Capitol after Trump's tweet saying Pence, quote, didn't have the courage to overturn the election results, prosecutors say an unidentified aide rushed to the state dining room to inform Trump that Pence had been evacuated in hopes he would take action, quote, to ensure Pence's safety. Trump's response, according to the filing, so what? Prosecutors also point to the former president's repeated praise for January 6 defendants.
Those J6 warriors, they were warriors.
And outline new alleged private conversations, including aboard Marine One, when Smith says a witness overheard Trump tell family members that it doesn't matter if you won or lost the election, you still have to fight like hell. Prosecutors also saying Trump operatives, quote, sought to cause chaos after the election, and detail one example when an unidentified aide present at a Michigan vote count was told there may be unrest, allegedly responded, quote, make them riot. The former president pleaded not guilty to the charges filed last year and denies any wrongdoing. Trump attacking the new filing as political.
This was a weaponization of government, and that's why it was released 30 days before the election.
It all comes as Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, is facing new scrutiny after his debate with Tim Walz asked whether Trump lost in 2020.
Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future.
The Department of Justice has long maintained its independence from political interference in criminal cases. And it's fair to note one major reason all this is coming to a head so close to the election is Mr. Trump's own strategy of seeking delay at every step in this legal process. Joe?
Garrett, thank you so much. And as November 5th gets closer, election workers are facing unprecedented threats. NBC News Now anchor Hallie Jackson details some of the measures being put in place to try and protect them this time around.
The construction nearly finished at Durham's elections office. Set to reopen with some startling new features.
This is already the bulletproof glass.
Yes.
And more is going to go in right here.
Absolutely, yep. The whole front of this will have this same glass.
Bulletproof glass at the front desk. Ballistic doors reinforced with steel. And in the new mailroom?
And right here is actually where the panic button will be.
A panic button, one of several in the building, and a separate exhaust system in case of white powder scares.
Did you ever think you'd have to put in something like that in a place like this?
Not at all.
Derek Bowens, the county's director of elections, has worked in the industry for more than a decade. And now?
A lot of rhetoric that we hear about election officials and elections in general require us to have a different security posture.
With everything you just laid out, is there any concern that it's overkill?
No, we don't feel that at all. I think the safety of election officials, the preservation of democracy, and making sure that there's no interference should come with a limitless perspective in terms of preparation and response.
It's not just North Carolina. More than 90% of local election officials reported stepping up safety measures since 2020, from armed security in Washington state to active shooter training in Arizona to reinforced barriers outside facilities in Pennsylvania.
It's unfortunate that we're spending so many resources, time, emotion, thought on this, but we have to do it. There's no way around it in this election.
It comes after years of attacks on the democratic process, stemming from former President Trump's election fraud lies. And now, nearly 40% of election workers say they're facing abuse and harassment. The FBI recently said it's investigating threatening mail sent to officials in multiple states after last year's interception of letters containing suspicious powders, including one that tested positive for fentanyl sent to some election workers. Still, despite the current climate, some say they're not deterred, but determined.
This work is like fighting for your own family. It is the front line in preserving our democracy. And to me, you can't find more impactful work than this.
Hallie Jackson, NBC News, Durham, North Carolina.
Now to the impact of Hurricane Helene nearly a week after it created a trail of devastation across the southeast. The death toll continues to rise, with nearly 200 people now confirmed dead as a result of the storm. And this morning, even communities hundreds of miles away from where Helene made landfall in Florida are still without vital supplies like food and water. And hundreds are still reported missing. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock is in North Carolina, where he's been speaking with some of the people who are trying to pick up the pieces. Sam, good morning.
Hi, Joe. Good morning. We're in Swannanoa right now. This is a portrait of devastation. You mentioned the 200 confirmed fatalities almost across the region. Pretty much half of those, Joe, are right here in North Carolina. There are still dozens of towns that are not accessible except by plane or either mule in some cases, supplies being taken up that way. And then the infrastructure hit is enormous. This is one micro example, a huge crater in the road here. It's lining up and down this main highway, Highway 70, as residents don't know if it's going to be weeks or months before they have running water again. The full extent of Helene's destructive toll just now coming into focus.
We have no water, we have no power.
After the rising waters rushed through these communities, forcing some to puncture holes in their roofs just to escape their homes. New satellite images show how floodwaters overwhelmed the French Broad River, and video showing dramatic landslides in the mountains, all causing widespread destruction. As residents in Swannanoa, just outside of Asheville, North Carolina, are getting their first look at the storm's devastation.
There's probably about 8 to 12 inches of mud.
You basically would sink in mud.
Oh, yeah.
In Asheville, Mission Hospital's 100-bed ER forced to take care of 200 patients, staff treating the sick and injured in triage tents with limited resources.
Everything people see on the news, it's worse in person. It's worse.
These trucks providing the only access to clean water.
Surgeries and procedures can't go on because there's no water for the doctors to scrub in.
HCA Health, which oversees the hospital, telling NBC News in part they have remained open and caring for patients since the storm, adding, "We are hopeful that the Asheville community's infrastructure will be restored soon, but we have contingency plans in place and will continue to evaluate how best to take care of our patients and our colleagues." On Wednesday, President Biden surveying the damage from the air, saying relief will cost billions, but promising more aid is on the way. And while so many have lost so much, for those left with something to clean up,
I'm so glad it survived.
Finding even a small memento is monumental.
These are things you can't get back. There's no amount of FEMA that will put these pictures back in the frame.
There is clearly, Joe, comfort in the small things, but obviously significant challenges that lie ahead. Right now, there's about 1 million customers across 3 different states, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, that still have no power. Folks here are being told, Joe, that there should be restoration for most of the homes on Friday. We'll see if that comes to pass, but there's still no timeline at all. Officials don't even want to provide one for when water might be back. Back to you.
Can't come soon enough. All right, Sam, thank you so much. In the midst of all the devastating news about Helene, we're also hearing countless stories of survival. Brett Neese from our affiliate in Raleigh, North Carolina, brings us some of those stories from one small town.
Not much is left of Wade Wright's community. The longtime Guerin Creek fire chief is doing his best to stay focused on his job as chief, despite losing multiple family members.
I know it'll hit eventually, but we still have our moments, but I try not to think about it right now because we got other things to take care of.
The catastrophic flooding and mudslides ripped through without much notice last Friday.
I realized we were stuck at the house. And in trying to save things and everything, the water rose so fast and got so strong that I just had to grab a post and hold on. And when it got up to about this close to the ceiling, I got worried that I was going to run out of air.
We heard countless stories of survival like Bud Marlowe's. 2 women and their dog were inside one of these homes as it floated miles down the mountain. This is where it ended up. The people who found them say it's a miracle they're still alive.
I mean, we've had floods, but nothing like this.
Despite the horror, the community is proving to be resilient, setting up a shelter at a nearby church.
We're trying to get something a little more organized right now. We're not FEMA or anything.
There, residents can get fresh food and water, and thanks to one man's Starlink, they can let loved ones know they are okay.
That's the reality, is that not everyone made it.
The search for those missing only growing more desperate with each day. At least 5 urban search and rescue teams with dogs are in this community alone. A community essentially wiped off the side of the mountain.
Our thanks to Brett Neese for that report. The chief in Guerin Creek says he has recovered 4 bodies so far, and at least 6 others are still missing. The Gulf Coast and Florida are now bracing for more showers this weekend. Meteorologist Angie Lassman's tracking it all. Angie, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Joe. We've got an area that we're going to keep a close eye on for potential development here. And yes, the answer might be that we see some more showers and thunderstorms as we get into the weekend. But we're also watching other spots across parts of the Atlantic. We've got Hurricane Kirk right now, Category 3. We've got a tropical storm, Leslie, also in parts of the eastern Atlantic. Both of those are going to be fish storms. We're not worried about those for impacts to the United States or any other land masses at this point. But we are going to keep a close eye on this kind of area, broad area of low pressure that's sitting into the Gulf of Mexico. The chance of development on the low end right now, 30%, but we could potentially be seeing something develop by the time we get into the early parts of next week. Either way, though, it does mean that we likely will see some additional rainfall across parts of the Gulf Coast. So today, it's going to be portions of Louisiana stretching into the Florida Panhandle that we see some of that rain working into. And then by the time we get into tomorrow, we'll likely see some of that working across parts of Texas and Florida. Now, between now and basically Sunday, I think 1 inch, 2 inches, maybe some isolated spots could reach up to 3 inches of rain. But we know people are still cleaning up after Helene's impacts to the state of Florida here last week. So we'll watch to see how that could impact folks there. Otherwise, today, it's a really nice day. I mean, for most of the country, we've got sunshine really from coast to coast. The rain across Florida is really the only spot that we're watching along with Louisiana. But otherwise, really warm temperatures for the Southwest, and it stays warm really west of the Rockies for the extended period, not just Friday, but into Saturday as well. It'll be a nice start to the weekend, Joe. You'll like this. It'll be a little warm, so if you're looking for more fall-like temperatures, I'm sorry to tell you, you have to wait a little longer, but plenty of sunshine to go around for everybody, and we finish out our weekend with more of the same. Some cooler highs, though, for the Northern Plains. So there you go, some 60s in there.
You know what? I'm not going to complain.
Sunshine all around.
Warm.
Who's mad at that?
Exactly. All that sun. Thank you so much, Angie. Appreciate it. Much more to come here on this hour of Morning News Now, including this heartwarming moment caught on camera. Princess Kate fulfilling one teen's lifelong dream on her own cancer journey. But first, after the break, a doctor charged in connection to the death of Friends star Matthew Perry, now pleading guilty. We've got the latest on that up next. We're back now with the latest to come from the investigation into the death of beloved Friends star Matthew Perry. One of the doctors charged in connection to his death last year has now officially pleaded guilty to conspiring to supplying Perry with ketamine. That is following a plea deal. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has been following this story and joins us now with the latest. Liz, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning to you. Yeah, so Mark Chavez is a San Diego doctor who has now admitted that he knowingly obtained ketamine meant for Matthew Perry, who prosecutors say had become addicted to the drug. Chavez's attorney says he is now cooperating with prosecutors and could become a witness when two others go to trial next year. That includes a Los Angeles doctor and the woman prosecutors say is known as the ketamine queen.
What's going to happen after that? Is it going to be anything you would like to say about his family?
San Diego doctor Mark Chavez walking into Los Angeles federal court, pleading guilty to conspiring to supply the late Friends star Matthew Perry with ketamine, a crime that could come with a maximum 10-year prison sentence and $500,000 fine.
Mark entered his plea of guilty, and that's now public record.
The 54-year-old, now the third person charged in connection with Perry's death to accept a plea deal, including Perry's live-in assistant Kenneth Iwamasa and acquaintance Eric Fleming. As part of the agreement, Chavez is admitting to supplying Los Angeles doctor Salvador Plasencia with ketamine that was then sold to Perry, including submitting a fraudulent prescription to obtain the drug.
He's incredibly remorseful what happened, not just because it happened to Matthew Perry, but because it happened to a patient. He is trying to do everything in his power to right the wrong that happened here.
The beloved actor was found unresponsive in a hot tub at his Los Angeles home last October. The medical examiner's office determining he died from the acute effects of ketamine, a drug Perry had been using under supervision to treat depression and anxiety. But prosecutors say he died from unsupervised use after becoming addicted, and that he began obtaining ketamine from Dr. Plasencia and the so-called ketamine queen, Jasveen Sangha, whose apartment they described as a drug-selling emporium.
She took advantage of Mr. Perry by selling large amounts of ketamine to Mr. Perry.
Is ketamine queen a fair nickname for your client to have been dubbed?
No, I say it's a clever nickname by the U.S. attorney, but I take great issue with it.
Prosecutors allege Sangha supplied Perry with the ketamine that caused his death, all while being aware of the drug's danger. Claims her attorney denies.
My client didn't have anything to do with administering or consuming or, frankly, never met Matthew Perry.
Now, both Sangha, the so-called ketamine queen, and Plasencia have pled not guilty. They are expected to stand trial in March. As for Chavez, he is currently out on $50,000 bond. He was forced to turn over both his passport and medical license. His sentencing is scheduled for April. Joe.
All right, Liz, thank you so much. This week marked the beginning of a historic new presidency in Mexico. Claudia Sheinbaum was sworn in as the first female leader in the nation's history. She's promising to promote women's rights and fight ongoing violence, but she's also inheriting a struggling economy. Telemundo anchor Julio Vaquero has the story.
A historic new era in Mexico as Claudia Sheinbaum was sworn in as the nation's first female president. Sheinbaum, a 62-year-old climate scientist and a former mayor of Mexico City, started her 6-year term addressing a room of more than 100 high-profile invitees, including U.S. First Lady Jill Biden, promising to strengthen women's rights and Mexico's economy.
Promoveremos la inversión pública y la inversión privada. Lo digo con toda claridad. Tengan la certeza que las inversiones de accionistas nacionales y extranjeros estarán seguras en nuestro país.
Sheinbaum, the country's first president of Jewish heritage, made history in June when she won a landslide election as a member of the governing Morena party, which was founded by her mentor and predecessor, Andrés Manuel López Obrador.
I think what we've seen so far, based on her speeches and based on the appointment of cabinet members, is quite a bit of continuity with what AMLO did over the last 6 years.
Though crime rates remained high during his term, Obrador left office with nearly 80% approval rating, due in part to policies and programs that targeted poverty. Sheinbaum vowing to carry on his biggest projects, which include the Hawks, not bullets approach of avoiding violent confrontations with drug cartels.
No regresará la irresponsable guerra contra el narco.
But she will also inherit a nation struggling with a weakening currency and a rising budget deficit.
As President Sheinbaum mentioned during her inaugural speech, about 10 million people were lifted out of poverty. These are clear indications that the emphasis on the more disadvantaged sectors of society will continue.
With the U.S. presidential election just weeks away, all eyes on how this new administration will navigate the results and maintain a strong relationship with its largest trading partner.
And our thanks to Julio Vaquero for that report. Coming up, a touching royal embrace. After the break, the heartwarming moment shared by Princess Kate and a teen battling cancer, all to fulfill one lifelong dream. Got that story for you next. Welcome back. The Princess of Wales is back on duty after finishing her chemotherapy. And now new photos show the princess sharing a touching moment with a teen fulfilling a lifelong dream at Windsor Castle. NBC News International correspondent Kelly Kobiea is outside Buckingham Palace with more on this. Kelly, good morning.
Good morning to you, Joe. Yeah, Princess of Wales and Prince William both helping to fulfill a bucket list wish for a teenage girl with cancer, welcoming her to Windsor Castle with open arms.
The first picture of Princess Kate at work, a touching hug, embracing 16-year-old Liz Hatton. The teen with a rare and aggressive form of cancer invited to Windsor Castle by Prince William for a private meeting with him and Kate to share her cancer journey, and as a budding photographer, asked to take photos of honorees at an awards ceremony. Kate, who has gone public about her own struggles with cancer treatment in an emotional video, shares the teen's love of photography. Kensington Palace posting the teen's photos to the royal couple's Instagram with millions of followers, posing with Liz Hatton and her family, adding a personal message saying her creativity and strength has inspired us both. Thank you for sharing your photos and story with us. Signing off, WNC.
And Liz telling BBC Radio this morning,
there was no sort of grandeur about them. There was just humanity and kindness.
The moment drawing parallels to Princess Diana and her connection to cancer and HIV/AIDS patients.
I think seeing Kate with Liz, having that lovely, natural, warm embrace really does remind us of Diana, but it's also really a sign of the times and how the royal family has changed.
The palace said Prince William heard about the teen through his work with the London Air Ambulance charity.
We were going to spin out and take it out.
Joking with David Beckham at an event supporting the rescue service, taking selfies with paramedics. King Charles also back at work in London, hosting a lively reception at Buckingham Palace with Queen Camilla Wednesday night, ahead of his visit to Samoa later this month. No sign of a meeting with his youngest son, Prince Harry, during his brief trip to the UK. Harry now on a solo private tour visiting Lesotho and South Africa, just as he did as a young working royal nearly 20 years ago when he co-founded a charity to support young people with HIV/AIDS.
And Prince William is also expected in South Africa next month for his Earthshot Prize Awards ceremony. And by the way, Joe, this event at Windsor Castle yesterday, it wasn't on the royal schedule. It wasn't an official engagement. It simply happened because Prince William heard about Liz and he wanted to invite her to Windsor Castle so she could meet Princess Kate and take those photos. Joe.
What an awesome moment. All right, Kelly, thank you so much. All right, you are going to recognize one of the people in our next segment. Dr. George James regularly joins us to talk about mental health issues. He's actually, though, going to be in a supporting role this morning. It's because Dr. James's 14-year-old daughter, Nalani, has just written a very special book, which also focuses on mental health. It's called Colors of Healing. It's a coloring book designed to help children express their feelings and process their emotions through art. Now, we first told you about it a few weeks ago. Dr. James promised he would come back with Nalani so we could talk more about it, and that moment has arrived. Thank you so much for being here. Author Nalani James and licensed marriage and family therapist Dr. George James. Congrats on the new book.
Thank you.
I understand it started as a school project. So where did you get the idea from? Why did you decide to do a coloring book?
Yes, so it started as my 8th grade independent project. We had to choose something to do, anything we could choose, and I chose to do a coloring workbook because I wanted to combine some of my interests, one being mental health and the other being working with kids in like a fun, creative way.
I can guess why you're probably interested in the issue of mental health. Doctor, I could just see you are beaming. You must be so proud, Dr. James. When you heard she was going to do this, what did you think?
You know, I'm definitely super proud of her, and I wasn't sure what she wanted to pick, and you never know how you influence your children, but it's really flattering that she decided to do something with mental health and took her skills and talents and pushed it even further. Talk
about the title of your book and how you came up with that title, and talk more about the coloring aspect.
Yeah, so the title of the book is Ola Kino, which is mental health in Hawaiian. I chose that because my name is Hawaiian, and we just have a really special connection to Hawaii, so that was just one of the reasons why I chose that. Yeah, so the coloring book is just supposed to help kids work through their emotions. Sometimes it's easier for them to color what they're feeling instead of saying what they're feeling, so just to really help kids recognize and express their feelings.
And more adults are coloring now, too, because there's like a certain relaxation to it, right?
Definitely. It's one of those things that the more you color, you focus in on the project, and you can actually reduce your anxiety and stress just by coloring.
You can be present. What is it you hope kids are going to take away from your coloring book?
I just hope kids that feel some sort of joy, that they can use this to continue to be happy and just take hard moments and be joyful.
What does it mean to see your daughter accomplishing something like this at the age of 14?
It's really incredible. I mean, I've seen her put in so much work for this project, and to see her think about young folks and how they can use this book to express their emotions, and how, you know, we even try to practice it at home. So it's been pretty cool.
Nalani, what are you hearing from some of your classmates and some of your peers about this?
Some of them are like really excited. The ones who know are really excited and are super supportive and are really just happy for me. But yeah.
Does this have you thinking about other projects and other things that you can do?
A little bit. I'm excited to see what comes next.
Do you think you maybe want to follow in your dad's footsteps? And I know it's early. You don't have to commit now.
We'll have to see, but maybe.
She has lots of influences, so we'll see.
What would be your message to parents who are looking at this and thinking, like, is this something for my kid?
You know, actually, I had a parent who said that their child, 11-year-old daughter, saw it and just started coloring and was able to start expressing themselves. And so I think that your child can see this and have fun no matter what age, and even adults can have a good time with this.
Very cool. All right, Nalani and Dr. George James, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations to you. And you can check out Nalani's book, Colors of Healing, available now at Barnes & Noble and on Amazon. Coming up, could it be time to cash out on all those hard-earned credit card points? After the break, we're going to dig into why inflation might be impacting your rewards and where you can score the best bang for your buck. That is next on Morning News Now. Welcome back. If you've been racking up those credit card points, hoping to cash out big on rewards, you might want to think about using them sooner rather than later. That's because years of inflation has been hurting the value of those points. For more pointers on making the most of your points, let's bring in Katie Nastro. She's a travel expert from Going.com. Katie, good to have you with us. So first of all, I mean, I think we kind of think, okay, our points are our points. They can sit there. We'll use them when we want to. But what effect has inflation been having on our points?
Yeah, look, there is no question that in the last decade or so, even beyond that, the valuation of miles has been unfortunately decreasing. Even so much so that the DOT has really launched an investigation into the 4 largest airlines to see how this is really impacting consumers. And it really feels in the last 5 years that we've seen the biggest shift, specifically looking at airline miles in terms of rewards. They're really prioritizing customer spending over anything else. So back in the day, you could get a cheap long haul flight, rack up a ton of miles, and then be able to use them over the course of a few years. But now, not so much the case. And it's really, again, prioritizing those who are spending the most.
So does it make a difference if you spend those credit card points as soon as they hit your account, or should you sit on them?
Yeah, that's another great question, Joe. Look, the best way to think about whether or not you should be using your rewards right away is sort of similar to how when you were a little kid, you might have hoarded your Halloween candy for months and months and months. Well, some of those gummy candies might not taste so great a year from now. They're edible, but it's better to sort of eat it sooner rather than later. That's the exact way that you want to look at your rewards. You want to try to use those within the year to sort of get the most bang for your buck at the time present that you're getting them.
That's some good advice to know right there. Are there types of credit cards or accounts that we should look for? I mean, what are some of the best deals out there to get the most bang for your buck?
Yeah, look, each month it can change, not a ton, but in particular when it comes to travel cards, you want to think about what you're spending most on and look for a card that really prioritizes that spend and is going to give you the most reward for that. For example, the Built card, rewarding those who spend on rent. If you go out to eat a lot, that's another category that you can look to see what types of credit cards are really going to give you the most bang for the buck there. If you travel a lot, Capital One Venture card, for example, the Venture card versus the Venture X has a lower annual cost versus the Venture X, but it's giving you the biggest reward for the types of spend that you're having when you're spending a lot in travel. So, at the end of the day, it really matters where you're spending, but also try to ensure if you are looking to use this card for travel specifically, make sure that that card has some built-in protections for those just-in-case scenarios that can really be helpful when you're dealing with disruptions. So giving you some reimbursements back, a little bit faster than maybe the airline would, for example, if you had a canceled flight.
So when you're actually using the points, deciding it's time to cash in, are there any useful tips or things you should know?
Yeah, again, don't be hoarding them for a ton of time. As well as, I think a lot of people tend to sit on their rewards for business travel, or not business travel, but, business class tickets or even first class tickets. So there are those premium tickets when you could actually be using your rewards towards more free flights in general by looking at economy. As well as, don't forget, we're coming up to the holidays. That's a busy season with peak season prices. Cash prices that are high, but you might be able to get the most bang for your buck in terms of redemption rates to look at those tickets in reward value, so in miles. So another sort of tactic that you can use in your arsenal. So when you are looking to cash out, just remember the ways that, you can really get the most bang for your buck. You want to utilize those hard-earned rewards, but you want to do so smartly.
Last year during the holidays when I was going home to Minnesota, it got so expensive I ended up having to use my miles, which is not how I wanted to use them. I wanted them for vacation.
I know, Joe. I similarly do the same thing, but sometimes your wallet can really thank you that you have those rewards to be able to use when those cash prices are just gut-wrenchingly high.
There you go.
Clearly around the holidays is where we tend to see this happen the most.
Good way to look at it. All right, Katie, thank you so much. Some good tips. Appreciate it. Speaking of your wallet, we've got some new numbers on the economy out just this morning. CNBC's Silvana Henao has the job market data and some other money headlines. Silvana, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. So 225,000 Americans filing new applications for unemployment benefits last week. That's slightly higher than the 221,000 claims expected. Last week's measure was also revised upward from 218,000 to 219,000. And today's numbers come before the all-important jobs report tomorrow. Toyota is reportedly delaying the start of electric vehicle production at its Kentucky factory by several months. According to Japan's Nikkei Business Daily, the automaker has pushed the start of production to the first half of 2026 rather than the end of 2025. And the change is reportedly due to design adjustment and slow EV adoption as the company gets ready to introduce 5 to 7 new electric models over the next 2 years. Toyota is not the first automaker to delay EV production. General Motors and Ford have also announced delays to their electric plans. And Wendy's is bringing the Krusty Krab to dry land. The fast food chain says it will release a special meal this month to honor the 25th anniversary of the animated TV show SpongeBob SquarePants. It will feature a Krabby Patty cheeseburger, which comes with an extra slice of cheese and a secret sauce, and a pineapple under the sea frosty. Now the collab goes on sale for a limited time starting on October 8th, Joe.
I think I want a pineapple frosty now.
Oh, me too.
All right.
Me too.
Silvana, thank you. In Arizona, a Native American community is drawing on its history to lead the way in green energy by combining solar panels with a canal. Here's reporter Brad Hicks.
With the flip of a switch, a new source started sending power to the grid. This stretch of solar panels south of Phoenix may not seem special, but what's under this canopy could impact how Western communities adapt to warming temperatures and drier weather.
We're meeting the moment here.
The innovators are Indigenous, the Gila River Indian community. They've built this canopy of solar panels over an irrigation canal.
This has never been done in North America before, never been done in the Western Hemisphere. So this could be a new paradigm for irrigation in the Western United States.
The panels produce power, but equally important, they prevent evaporation, a huge problem here in the desert. The shade they create could also keep algae from growing in the canal, cutting maintenance costs. And the cooling effect of the water under the panels should make them more efficient.
For the world to see that a tribal nation can do this. We're at the forefront of this. We're at the cutting edge, of finding ways to address climate change.
Right now, just over a half mile of this canal is covered. But when the 16-mile-long canal is complete, it could supply half the energy needs of the entire community and save enormous amounts of water for irrigation.
Community's vision is to establish the first and only in the world completely carbon-neutral irrigation district, meaning that whatever its power demand is, we will generate through renewable energy.
The Indigenous people here are considered one of the most successful canal-building cultures in human history, dating back 2,000 years. By harnessing solar to save water, they are taking their canal-building heritage to new heights.
And this links so beautifully to our traditions. If this moment becomes a movement, we're going to look back and just to see that this is a historic time in how we address and adapt to our changing environment.
In the Gila River Indian community, Brad Hicks reporting.
All right, from the sun to space, scientists are getting excited about a special asteroid in the Earth's orbit. NBC's Steve Patterson tells us more about the so-called mini-moon.
It's one small step for man.
For 4 billion years, this lone, loyal rock has been our trusty little sidekick, tagging along our corner of the cosmos like an interstellar golden retriever. So it's only right that once in a while, it has some company. Meet the mini-moon.
It's a mini moon in the sense that it's small, it's going to hang around for a few months, but then it's going to go off on its way.
Right now, the Earth's gravitational pull is playing host to something we'd traditionally find a little scary, an asteroid. Scientists say it swung by, got caught up in our gravity, and will spend about the next 60 days orbiting the planet.
You can imagine us both sharing kind of the same racetrack as we go around the sun.
And no, there's no need to fear. They're not kidding about the mini part. The asteroid, affectionately named 2024 PT5, is literally 33 feet long, about the size of your average school bus. Which is great for humanity staying off the extinction list, but a little disappointing if you were looking to dust off that telescope in the garage. It's too small and too dark for most of us to glimpse, but experts say that shouldn't make it any less exciting.
The way that studying these rocks actually ties us to something, much bigger and much older than we can imagine.
A part-time phenomenon, shedding more cosmic light on the wonder of the universe and confirming our loyal rock has no celestial equal. Steve Patterson, NBC News, the Milky Way.
Coming up, a heartwarming story of compassion in the wake of tragedy. After the break, how even a storm like Helene couldn't stop one father from walking his daughter down the aisle. His journey is next. Stay with us. The Queen of Christmas has spoken. Mariah Carey took to social media to let her fans know it is still too early to defrost.
This is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard, Mariah. We are headed to the North Pole.
Not yet. Sorry. Always rush.
Yeah, the legendary singer expected to go on her Christmas tour in November, but clearly she is not going to be rushed. The only exception she has made for early festivities is for Filipinos. Last month, she posted on Facebook saying, "Philippines, it's time," in parentheses, "only for you," with a link to her song, "All I Want for Christmas Is You." That's because in the Philippines, Christmas season is traditionally celebrated during all the Burr months, October, November, December. That means holiday music is already blasting in malls and homes across the country. So to the people of the Philippines, Merry Christmas. Mariah says it's okay. Finally this hour, a heartwarming story about a dad who went above and beyond. Despite getting stuck in Helene, David Jones traveled 27 miles to make it to his daughter's special day. Reporter and anchor Sam Perez from our NBC affiliate in Knoxville, Tennessee, has that story.
Every dad wants to walk his daughter down the aisle, so I got my chance.
David Jones hit the road Friday night, heading to his daughter Elizabeth's wedding in Johnson City.
That's usually a 2-hour drive. It didn't occur to me that there would be any trouble.
But around 2 a.m., when he got to a crumbled bridge in Unicoi County, he got stuck in Irwin.
It's incomprehensible, the destruction, this complete missing bridge and the gap and the rushing water underneath.
Jones, a marathon runner, was determined to get there, even if it meant walking the rest of the way to the church.
I thought, it's 20 or 30 miles, I can do this. And so off I went.
He says he fell waist deep into sand. He climbed roots and trekked through mud and ran into law enforcement officers who advised him to turn around. His response?
And I said, well, you don't understand. My daughter's getting married at 11 o'clock this morning, and I'm going to be there to walk her down the aisle.
Jones says he traveled about 17 miles on foot and hitched a ride from a trooper and a passerby for the remaining 10 miles, finally arriving at the church at 7:30 a.m.
Dad was doing his dad thing and taking every measure he could to be there, but I had no idea.
Nice. That's a good photo.
He walked me down the aisle. Yeah, it meant the world because I'm really close with my dad. We're so similar, and he's always been there for me.
Walking miles for that memory.
Dad doing his dad thing. Our thanks to Sam Perez for that report. It's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stick with us. The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.